Hi there, my name is Shaun Bindley. My guest on the program this evening is the member for Indooroopilly, Scott Emerson. What's the workload of a shadow minister, Scott? You're doing the same sort of hours that a minister would be doing, that sort of 60, 70 hours a week, getting out of bed at 5 and getting home at 10 sort of thing?
Look, it's an early start. I tend to be an early riser anyhow, but it can be very, very long days. And not Monday to Friday either. There's always not just the shadow minister responsibilities, but also the electorate responsibilities. There's always events on at the weekend as well to go to and such things. So the days can be very long. When I became a shadow minister after being a backbencher, everyone thought, oh, well, somebody's got all these extra resources to do. And in fact, I've got a policy advisor I share with 2 other shadow ministers. So I get an extra third of a person to help with the workload. So, you are trying to talk to as many people as possible, get your mind wrapped around policy, initiatives and respond to such things without necessarily all the support structure of a department or a ministerial office. So people do say quite often that shadow ministers and being in opposition is harder in that aspect than being actually in government. But let me not confuse anyone about that. I think ministers have to make decisions, and that's a hard job. Shadow ministers don't have to make decisions. So ministers do work very, very hard. And I think if we're fortunate enough to be elected when the election comes, I think we'll see how hard those ministers do work. I don't think it's an easy task.
Yeah, very much so. I guess even more so sort of illustrates the importance of having the support of your family. How did you meet your wife? At uni back in the early 90s?
At university, way back there, and at university days. I think we met in English classes at UQ, even though we were in journalism classes as well. And there's some stories about whether we met at that or at a nightclub called the Soul Bin, which was around in those days.
The Soul Bin, I don't remember
that.
Well,
it would have been a very cheap cover charge. If I was going there, I didn't have a lot of money in those days, but she used to come in from swim classes in the morning. She was in the swim squad for university at the English classes. She'd get in a little bit late, and I'd be the one at the back reading the Sydney Morning Herald at the time. And so we both noticed each other for those reasons and got to know each other. We celebrated our 20th anniversary earlier this year.
Oh, nice.
We were going to go away for the anniversary celebrations, but unfortunately the floods came along just about the same time. So we both worked in the community. That was our 20th anniversary, working in the local area. My electorate was very badly hit by the floods. It's a lot of riverside suburbs, and she and I were both on the road working. We had people coming and staying at our house, and I was actually travelling around to the suburb after suburb and street after street.
How's that recovery going out there now?
Oh, look, it can be quite misleading because the mud's been scraped away from the roads, the curbs, the rubbish on the curbside's gone, but there's still a lot of heartbreak and a lot of stress still out there. A lot of people still struggling financially with insurance companies, trying to get the money from the Premier's Relief Fund. Those issues are still out there, and they will continue for a long time.
We were talking before the show, and I wanted you to tell me about your experience walking the Kokoda Trail last year. What a lot of people do Kokoda these days. It's something. It almost seems like it's something that you should have on your bio because it looks fantastic. Because lots of people are doing it. It's a good way to raise publicity. Was it as hard as you thought it might be?
I think it could have been a lot harder. We had pretty good weather.
You're pretty fit. You keep fit.
Look, I am fit, and half an hour into each day, I would have been soaked in sweat. Every bit of clothing would have been soaked in sweat. It was very hot, very humid. If it had been raining, it would have been a lot slipperier. But I did have a risky experience, I guess, and part of it. It was pretty good, but it's a 9-day trek, and on the penultimate day, there was a little bit of an accident where I was walking down a fairly steep descent.
Now, people will tell you that it's actually the going down that's harder than the going up.
Well, it was in this case, but they have a ski pole that you normally have to go down.
Give yourself support as you go
Yes, that's
down
right. We have one of those, and as I was stepping off at the end of there, off with one foot with the ski pole there, the ski pole snapped away, and I went down, and leg got trapped in a tree root, and I thought, oh, well, that's... I'm worried about getting twisting the hips and the knees and such things, or ankles. And I was face down in the mud, and I pushed my way back up, and I thought, it feels okay. And I looked to the right, and there's a foot-long pole of steel on the ground that's missed me by about an inch or so to the right. And, if it had been an inch further that way, it would have gone through a lung, I guess, and I would have been airlifted out. If it had gone through the other side, I guess they wouldn't have rushed so much to get me out, because that would have been the end of me. But it didn't happen. And those things in my life, they don't happen. You just say, right, That's been good, so let's keep going.
A memorable moment, move on to the next
Well, in
day,
fact, the
sort of
polls there are still at Parliament House, and the opposition, we've got some rooms in opposition on level 9, or level 10 of the parliamentary annex there, and the poll is there, the snap poll. We brought it back to show, so...
With that bit of spare time that you do have, I mean, you're very actively involved in the community. Where do you find time for rest? I mean, you've got a couple of kids as well. I mean, you're out there, you like reading, you're into music. Who do you listen to?
I like reading and music, but we do try to organise as best we can. It's not easy. Go with the kids to, I'd say, a movie a week or something like that. But also, sometimes the kids do like coming to some of the events, and my wife comes to events. So say it's the school fetes or fairs or events like that. The kids will come along. They get quite excited by that and can enjoy that. But it's important to try to get that balance. I don't think anyone out there really wants their politicians to be so narrow that all they're doing is politics and in the electorate. They want to see someone with a balanced life. And that's sometimes a lot of hard work. My wife will say to me, she'll say, no, you're not going to that one tonight, we're going to be at home tonight or be with the family tonight. And I say, that's right, Robin, fair enough. You've got to, sometimes you can lose a sense of where your balance is. Because any MP out there would probably, every night of their calendar would have probably 3 to 4 events. And you have to actually choose which ones you want to go to, or in the end choose, look, I haven't seen the family enough, I need to keep that balance.
We're just about out of time. Coming up to your second election, what's in the future for you, Scott Emerson? If, God forbid, you don't end up as the member for Indooroopilly, what's in the future for you?
Oh, look, I don't know. I'm still fairly young. I've got to make a few dollars for the family and keep paying the mortgage. I may go back into somewhere in media. That's my background, whether PR or working somewhere in communications. But I'm not really thinking about that. I'm hoping to keep working in Indooroopilly. And look, the people of Indooroopilly decide if I've done a good enough job. They'll make that decision. That's the wonderful thing about our democracy. They get to choose every 3 years, and people decide if you've done a good enough job. And that's a great thing.
Has your time in politics so far changed, do you think? You've got a different haircut.
Yeah, well, that's right. The hair's a bit shorter than it used to be. Look, no, I think it's that enthusiasm for being with people, trying to get things fixed and change hasn't changed. Sometimes you get a bit wiser and smarter on how you can achieve that, and that hopefully comes with the job, but I haven't lost my enthusiasm for that.
What do you look forward to, briefly, in the future?
In terms of after politics?
Yeah.
Look, after politics, I want to spend a lot more time with my wife at some point, maybe a bit more bushwalking, a bit of trekking. That's what I enjoy.
Scott Emerson, thank you very much for your time.
Been a pleasure.
My guest on the program this evening, the member for Indooroopilly, Scott Emerson. My name is Shaun Bindley, and you've been watching Meet the Ministers.